Okay, the Hangout is live on air, and here we are. My name is Connie Walker. I'm from the National Optical Astronomy Observatory, and with me, my comrade in crime here to my right is Carlton Stant. Carlton, say a few words of who you are.
Hi, I'm Carlton. I like crime.
Okay, that's Carlton for you guys. He's one of our illustrious set of 6 students that are with us in the Education and Public Outreach Department at the National Optical Astronomy Observatory. We're very lucky to have him. He's the star of the show. On the video, you might have watched the 7.5-minute video we have on light pollution and the night sky activity. And so he's going to be talking with us today, mostly about that activity and answering your questions that you might have. Your questions will be on anything the activity and any logistics that is involved. When I'm getting feedback.
That's all right. I think we're good.
Okay. So what I'd like to also mention is our guest. Are you guys getting feedback? No? Okay, I'm glad. We're not able to wear 2 sets of headphones, so I hope this is not getting on the final video.
Because we're the only
Yeah, that's right. It did not happen in the previous 4 Google Plus Hangouts we had on this, but see, now I don't hear it at all. Okay, so with me here today we have 3 other guests, and the first one I'm going to mention is John Blackwell. John is a teacher, a wonderful, very, very, very good teacher at Exeter Academy, which is a very illustrious academy in New Hampshire. Can you say a few words, John?
Hey everybody, I'm John Blackwell. I'm up in Exeter, New Hampshire, where it is just past 9:00 p.m. our time. And I teach astronomy and I love it, and I'm very much anti-light pollution, so let the discussion begin. Back to you, Connie.
Thank you. And next we have Mike Chapman, and Mike is from Sydney, Australia, and he has a special organization that he is involved with called SOLAS. You want to tell us a little bit, Mike? You're muted, Mike. You're muted, Mike. Let me just get him unmuted here.
Your mic is muted, Mike.
Well, not on our end. You can't hear him. Okay. How are you now, Mike? Can't hear you at all. We've heard you just a few minutes ago. Let's try to get your audio working again. I just upped the volume, and the only one that has the mic off is John at the moment, not Mike.
So can you hear me now?
Yeah, I wonder what happened.
You can hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. Sort of, I'm not sure. I was fiddling around trying to figure out how to mute it at my end, so...
I guess you succeeded.
Anyway, I must have done something. Okay, so, well, anyway, I've got this organisation called the Sydney Outdoor Lighting Improvement Society, or SOLAS for short. It's not my fault it ended up with that name. It was somewhere in the prehistory. So we've been sort of working against issues around light pollution for about 20 years. And we've got a fairly long association with the IDA.
And that's the internet.
At the moment, sorry, my phone's sort of ringing here, but anyway, we can wait for that. What was I going to say? So we've been working on light pollution issues around Sydney mostly for a number of years, mainly lobbying councils over the way they do lighting, and working with Sydney Observatory, trying to control lighting issues in Sydney and the northern areas of Sydney, which is like where their best bet of ever seeing anything in the sky is. I'm currently completing a master's, doing some work around light pollution issues. The master's is in architecture, and I'm studying illumination design. So I've got to submit by 17th of July if I want to graduate this year.
So I better not be bothering you too much between now and then, huh?
That's right.
Okay, Noelia.
Yes. I'm Noelia. I'm from Tucumán, Argentina. Well, I'm part of the Department of Lighting, Light and Vision. We are a department inside the engineering college. We work there in different issues and topics like, well, I work with vision because I'm a biomedical engineer, but there are architects, are electronic engineers too, so it's a multidisciplinary area. And we are, with some of my partners, are part of OSA, or the Optical Society, and SPE, or SPEA, SPE societies. We are student chapters. Most of us are doctoral students. We are doing our PhD.
What particular area are you doing it in?
I'm working with vision, particularly with amblyopia. It is a disorder, a neurological disorder that affects the vision of young people.
That is so cool. So we have here represented many of the organizations that this particular project, the Quality Lighting Teaching Kit project, is partnering with. So with SPIE, which is an illumination society, OSA, which is an optical society, and with CIE, which is another illumination society that Mike is involved with, and IDA, which is the International Dark Sky Association, which Mike is involved with. And then, of course, we are very, very proud and happy that half our kids are going to student chapters, which Noelia is representing right now, and the other half are going to CIE, IDA, and other organizations like for the International Astronomical Union. And to receive the people that are in these associations are going to be working with teachers, and that's where John comes in, because John has been. How many years have you been a teacher, John?
My goodness, over 12 here. Just completing my 12th year at Phillips Exeter, and 4 or 5 years before that in different versions of trenches here and there.
And I think along the line you've probably done a little bit on astronomy, a lot of astronomy, a little bit on light pollution, right?
Quite a bit of light pollution. I'm actually an astronomer. I do research primarily variable stars and high-energy astrophysics and quasars, so real dark skies and big telescopes with lots of spectroscopy is where I'm coming from. I'm actually, in 3 days, I'm going down to Cerro Tololo for a week, so I'm really looking forward to the time down there. Can you believe that? And it's winter. But anyway, I digress. So I'm both a teacher and an astronomer, and do research and a member of the IDA, the whole thing, really actively pursuing darker skies here. And our location, we're about an hour north of Boston, about 20 minutes south of the city of Portsmouth, New Hampshire. So we have light domes in both directions. So it's a challenge, as you can imagine.
Yeah, I can. And so I want you all to keep in mind now, we have received a few questions for instance, from John, and Noelia has her list of questions, she's told me. And so we're going to go through an overview of the activity just to give the viewers and the people who will be viewing this after the Hangout's done as a YouTube video. We want to make sure that you know that you can, as viewers on the YouTube video right now, you can ask questions with an app that Google has called Q&A. And the Q&A app for people who are viewing online right now, not our guests, but for the people viewing online, if you go to the upper right-hand portion of your screen, you ought to see something that reminds me of a Rubik's Cube. It has a 3x3 tiny little squares that make up a total of 9 squares. That's like one of the Google symbols. If you click on that, that'll bring down at least 2 apps, and one of those 2 apps will be the Q&A app, and you can click on that and ask as many questions as your heart desires that has to do with this program. not whether I color my hair or anything like that. I don't want those kind of questions, please. But just questions on that have to do with the kit. So to launch that off, I would like to introduce again Carlton and have him go a little bit over an overview of the activity itself. And then we'll ask for questions and start the whole process.
Thank you, Connie. So the whole premise of the quality light teaching is the teacher of a classroom is to play the role of like a mayor, and we have an issues poster, basically a collection of problems raised by citizens of the city that deal with different types of light pollution and problems caused by improper light shielding. And so the night sky one focuses on the night sky issues.
Oh, I just showed the issues poster, sorry.
Oh, that's all right. That's cool.
Yeah.
Looks better than I do. Anyway, so with this, the students will be addressing these concerns, and let's get a bit of background on it by looking at the light pollution and night sky poster.
One next, please.
Yeah, if we could bring that up.
Sure.
And that one covers some details such as sky glow, what it is, some of the problems associated with it, how our night sky has a history, our heritage. For example, Galileo's drawings of the moon and other works of art of the night sky. It also talks about how it affects the observatory and astronomers, how this makes them a little more difficult, which makes sense. If you can't see the night sky, it's kind of hard to be an astronomer. If they want to know anything more about it, there's some key ideas that they can Google search, or I don't know, just look up some other way, maybe find a book on them. And then on the far right end of the poster, you'll see it says, "Now try this," and that basically summarizes what we'll be doing in the activity. It's got two, I want to say two main parts, but there are different steps in each of these parts. The first part explores the effect of proximity to a city and the visibility of stars. So in the first one, you're going to set it up to where the star projector is going to be at one end of two pieces of paper. And if we could turn that over here, I'll kind of show you guys. So, yeah, thank you. You got the star projector on one end. This represents our city. This is going to be where all this, or sorry, no, this is not our city. This is our night sky. And to get a view of that, you're going to need to have something to project on. Standard piece of paper works pretty well. I drew a circle on it, an 8-inch circle, just to kind of fill up the area. Oh, thank you. So once you turn that on and hold it above, you'll see a good representation of the night sky. And I'll show you a picture of that because obviously it's too bright here to show you. Could you bring up the first picture?
Yeah, can you turn it back?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're working with one.
Yeah, so we got one laptop to work with here.
Yeah, and I can't get the cursor to work over here. Here we go. Twitter. And you wanted which one again?
The first one? It just shows the night sky.
Need this thing?
Yeah. There it is. Now, I don't know how well this is showing up for you guys. It is pretty dark. It'll look better in the YouTube video. But what it is a top view of the piece of paper with the star projector under it. And it's got all the stars in the night sky on there. So what you'll do is you'll have the students observe this, kind of remember how many stars there are. If you want, you can have them count it. And then what you'll do is you'll introduce a globe light, which is going to be basically a mag light with a ping pong ball over the top of it.
Look at what is happening is it shows what's going on over here. If I go to the second one, let's see that one.
Yeah, so there's the globe light. Yeah, just throw a ping pong ball over it. Once you uncap it, you can use the bottom as a stand. And you're going to start further out and then bring it closer. And as you bring it closer and closer, you want the students to observe the visibility of the stars that you projected onto the piece of paper.
Do you want to show them where the piece of paper is? So on the right-hand side, you have the Star Master Planetarium.
Yeah.
And actually right now there's a paper over it in the picture which has that big circle on it. And the stars are supposed to be shining through there. I don't know if you can see it on your screen very well. And then as you get closer and closer, the students are supposed to observe what percentage of the stars are not present anymore, basically.
Mm-hmm. So again, as you bring it closer, you will see the stars to become not as bright, get kind of washed out by the light of the globe light. And this is going to kind of demonstrate how proximity to a city, especially one with a lot of sky glow, will reduce the visibility of the night sky. In this case, the globe light is going to be the city, and the night sky is, well, the night sky. And that covers the first one. The second part deals with different types of lights that we can use and to observe their effect on the visibility of stars. So in the first one, we had a globe light directly under it. And in the second part, we're going to switch that out for a book light, which is supposed to represent a street light. It's got a kind of a crooked neck. The light is all pointed down. And what students should observe is that the stars are a lot more visible with the book light. And you want to try and coax them to come to the conclusion that it's because the light is all pointing down. And yeah, so when they get to that conclusion, you want them to kind of fiddle around with some of the stuff that you have in the box. We provide a roll of aluminum foil if they want to make shapes out of that. But the goal is to modify the globe light to where it will do the same thing as the book light. It will redirect all the light downwards. And eventually you'll get to something like this that you'll see. Yeah, some kind of cap. Mm-hmm. This is proper light shielding. And this is the conclusion we want to come to. We've got a PVC cap that works maybe a little better than something they might come up with, just to better demonstrate it. And you will also notice that if you put the cap on, it doesn't matter how close you are to the star projector or far, the visibility is going to remain the same. You can also do this with the shields that the kids came up with as well.
So it's a nice little cute activity.
Yeah, and then once they're done with this, you'll have them present their findings to the mayor and some kind of report or something.
Yeah, there's all different ways they can report, and this is kind of like, I think, a very central piece to the whole process. It depends on the teacher. It depends how much time the teacher wants to devote to the activity. Things can be lengthened and shortened as the teacher sees fit. But I think the crucial part is for that particular group, which is basically one part of the classroom doing this activity. There are maybe as many as 5 other groups doing 5 other different activities, all having to do with light pollution's effect on stuff. And so the whole point is at the end for them all to get together, and sometimes even the groups have talked to each other beforehand and come to a common conclusion as to how they're going to handle the light pollution problem in their city and what different measures they're going to take, or similar measures they're going to take in order to address it. And sometimes it can even go beyond that, and I hope we get to talk about this a little bit, that it can go to the city council if they want to, even make a presentation there. So it doesn't have to stop in the classroom. So so with that, I thought I'd turn it over to see if there's some questions. I'm going to go first to the Q&A, and just to make sure that we include the people that might be asking questions from the Q&A. And we do have one. Okay, we do have one very positive comment which says, "Cool beans."
The coolest beans.
The coolest beans. Okay. So I'm not quite sure what John Igo meant by that, but maybe he can share what he meant by that.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John. I think it's a compliment. Okay, and we'll wait for more constructive comments from John, as well as from whoever else would like to join us today. But I thought too we could start from left to right here, and I think we're starting to hear you here.
All right.
Okay. We'll do a little echo at this end. We'll start with John, maybe, and try to address some questions that you may have to ask us. Do you want to start with your questions, John, or what would you like to do?
Sure, I'm happy to do that. I'm watching the questions up there, waiting for John Ego to maybe something going on. I found the Q&A app and tested it. Well, thank you, John. That's really cool. It's really neat. So if you have any questions, feel free, please, to ask them. That's great. happy to bring those forward. One of the things that's really neat about having that dome light representing the city and moving that progressively toward your virtual observatory there with the star map being projected, I think that's really beautiful. It really demonstrates the awful ability of light domes to just wreck astronomical viewing altogether. One of the interesting things that may come out of this perhaps is for the kids to try to find some kind of mathematical relationship between the distance of that dome and the actual number of stars that are visible, or perhaps even the intensity or brightness of the stars, or magnitude, if you will, of the stars that are visible, like a limiting magnitude or something. So I've been thinking on and off a little bit about different ways to represent that mathematically, and wondering if you guys had some ideas or input onto how that could be tackled in, say, I don't know, a high school classroom where the kids have got, maybe a pretty good foundation in algebra, but not necessarily anything more than that, and they're curious but need to be pushed in the right direction. What do you guys think?
Well, there is a law called Walker's Law, named after me. somebody infinitely more famous. And I'm starting to echo again, so I'm going to talk a little slower and go a little bit further from my mic here. But there's a law called Walker's Law, and what it is it results in brightness of something, but it's connected to the population and divided by the distance to the 2.5. So it's almost like an inverse square law, but not quite. And I think that might be one you can play with, especially if you're looking at the same size city, like the same population in your city. You can leave that as a constant and just play more or less with luminosity, which you probably can get into magnitude somehow. It's related. And then that would be inverse distance kind of thing to the 2.5 power. And that may work for you. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's really cool. Thank you for that. It's interesting to get the kids involved in as many different ways as possible, tactile and visually and mathematically and even artistically, whatever it takes to get this to merge together.
Well, let me tell you that this is not a theoretical law. This is an empirical law. This law was made by observation and all the data gathered and a formula fit. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure whether they're able to do something similar. We could talk about this offline as to how they would take measurements and maybe fit to their own law and see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, great.
Next on the hit list?
For me or somebody else?
Whichever you'd like. Do you want to go on to someone else? Or?
Yeah, let's go to somebody else. I've got a couple more questions, but we can wait. Let's bring other people in.
Hi, Mike. What do you think? You have some questions? Let's put it on Mike. Mike, you're the centerpiece here, Mike. There you go.
Right. Sorry, I don't have any questions. I think I'll be fine, but that was a very good question from John, I thought.
Yeah, he has a couple really good earlier. Okay, well, we'll let your mind keep churning away, and I'm sure by the end of John and Noelia, you'll have at least one really good question to punch through, right? No, you're always a wealth of information, Mike, so I'm sure we'll hear from you. So, Noelia, what do you think?
Well, my question is pretty simple. Because we have a box that we have to build the planetarium with point. I don't know how necessary it is to do that.
You mean show this?
Yeah. So the kit comes with a backup star projector. You're talking about this, right? Yeah. This is really necessary if this Star Master bails out on you. We've had it happen before because we had to mass produce these, and so we tried to find the cheaper ones. But so far they've worked. But just in case, we've got this. It's only necessary if that one breaks, though.
Okay. And how far we can put the sheet of paper so we can see the effect when we are putting the light closer.
Oh, on the Star Master?
Yeah, you're saying like.
Yes.
Yes. Like that?
No. Yes. How far from the Star Master we have to put the sheet of paper, because we do the test with my partners, and we don't see the defect. I don't know if we have to put the room more darker.
Yeah. Can I answer? Yeah.
Turn off every light, and I don't know, windows with some black paper or something.
Yeah.
To make darker the room, but we didn't see a defect when we have farther than, for example, 5 centimeters from the Star Master. If we put it farther, we don't see any effect.
Okay. Okay. So you've got like a problem with visibility then?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Like you were saying, cover up the windows if you can. You want the room as dark as possible. Again, these aren't the strongest bulbs, but if you can't see it when it's further away, you can bring it closer just so that the stars are more visible. Like I don't know if you guys can see this very well. You can see them. Yeah, let's hit the lights for a second. 1 second. Okay. So like. So, can you guys see the stars on this?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Sometimes you have some problems. It may not be this bright when the paper is about yay far away. And so, to kind of increase the sharpness of them, you can bring it closer. That'll make it a lot brighter. Just so long as you're able to put the mag light under it, I think you'll be all right. As close as that needs to be, and you can count the stars and record the visibility of the stars, I think you're all right.
We do try to make the room as dark as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, really, really dark. It works better the darker the room is. And you have to put in a new set of batteries when you use this.
Okay.
Because then the light source will be as bright as it possibly can. And we do try to make this circle here fill the paper, basically. So it's about, in American units, it's 8 inches across, right? This whole thing, basically.
Okay.
And then they'll be able to see the stars. And then he's about, I'm sorry to say, 3 inches away, so about 7-8 centimeters away. And you can see it's fully covering the paper, which is about 8 inches across. And you can actually stand there and count the stars. But what we also do is we have a little, where's that thing?
Yeah, we've got like a transparency. This is just kind of a way to estimate the stars if you don't want to stand there forever and count them.
Uh-oh.
Transparency.
We lost transparency in the dark.
I got it. So, transparency like this, you can draw on it, make a little X. And then here, yeah.
Oh, you can't see it too well, but you almost see it. Yeah, you can see it.
Yeah,
there you
should
go.
Be a little more visible now. So with that X, we can do is count the stars in one area and then multiply by 4 to get a decent estimate.
Yes, it depends on your students and how committed they are to doing this.
Yeah, because that's a good number of stars on this thing.
And also how much time the teacher has. Okay, I have a couple lights.
All right, let's turn this one off. Yeah, no, I think we're good.
There we are. Okay. So that's a good question, actually. This very practical question. I like that a lot. Do you have more questions, Noelia?
No, I just have the comment that I told you before, that the video was really clear for us. We have to translate to Spanish. So when we saw the video, we can translate better the activity for the kids. Because if we translate the English that was written in the poster, kids perhaps did not wouldn't understand that.
Yes. So I know that one of your colleagues, Clemente, or did I say his name?
Yes.
He has translated all of the posters.
No. We separate the work, the different. We separate in groups with every topic. So we 2 or 3 people per groups. So there we work. Everybody works in the translation. Clemente has the same group as me, and we translate it together with other partner too.
But what I'm hearing now that I did not know before was that you also are translating the videos.
No, the videos, no. We just translate the posters.
Okay, all right. Oh, that's wonderful. I am so glad. Yeah, he sent some files already. Yeah. So we'll be putting that online as soon as our webmaster comes back from vacation.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. Thank you. Yeah. So, if you would like, well, we've had so much good luck with our previous 4 Hangouts, but now we're having trouble for the first time. Sorry about that. But John here. So John, can you go over some more of your questions?
Yeah, sure. You know, it's interesting. Once we educate students and whatnot, and they pretty much get it because they're looking at telescopes. Through telescopes, they're trying to see things that are pretty faint and difficult, especially if there's light pollution or some other kinds of interferences that are going on. The trouble that, as an administrator, when I change hats and become a local representative for the observatory that I'm managing, part of the problems that we get into are trying to educate the greater public and not just my students in the classroom, which I've got captive, right? So my students have no choice but to learn in some way or another. But the public is a different metaphorical ballgame, so to speak. They come in with a lot of preconceptions about light pollution and about lighting. And particularly, one of the things that I hear the most from the public is that it takes lots and lots of bright lights and tons of glare, etc., to reduce crime in the area. That's a classic problem. And they actually get angry. They get very belligerent and confrontational when it comes to discussing the issue of light trespass, light pollution, and just savings in dollars that they don't need to light so poorly in order to prevent crime and to do a good job of lighting buildings and safe areas and whatnot. And it's a prevalent belief that brighter areas are safer areas. And I'm just wondering what you two and others on this conference think about that, and how best to go about educating the public in a way that does not anger them, and it reduces their confrontational load, so to speak, if that makes any sense. Does that make sense?
No, it does.
Okay.
It makes a sense. I'm going to mute you for a minute and see if this feedback gets any better. No, it's great. Yeah. Okay, that sounds a little better for some reason. Yeah, this is a really delicate question, and you had explained a little bit of it in an email.
Sounds like.
Yeah, it's very bad. But anyway, I'll try to explain it. I don't know. With the public, sometimes you have to just start gently, like with a star party. So you take out a bunch of telescopes in a fairly dark area, and you actually might put a telescope that's a little bit close to something that's bright. And you contrast the two. You know, how many stars can they actually see in one versus the other? And this develops into a conversation as to why you can see better through one telescope than the other. And I think from there, if you even have it as a setup at maybe a school function where they could actually use this activity, this kit, as as different stations, because you have the one on energy, you have the one on safety, which does address crime too. It actually asks for the minimum level of light that you need to function properly. And when you do that, you can see, if you take measurements even within your building, that sometimes there's enough light to do brain surgery in some rooms that don't actually need it. So that's always a kind of a neat thing. So we have one on light trespass as well. So there's various things you can attack just by showing them some examples. But I always think that showing them something that's, more real is what adults would really like to see. So sometimes even doing a little tour, if they're amenable, to different parts of the city, if you are lucky enough, for instance, to have one of these narrow-band amber LEDs, or a phosphor-coated amber LED, or all these beautiful lights that show such gorgeous color rendition. I love low-pressure sodium lights, but everything looks gray under them, and that's a lot of the complaint from different peoples. But if you show them an LED that is a more yellowish kind of LED and not with the blue content in it, you're showing them not only a light that's energy efficient, but it's also one that's not going to affect your health in the long run if you're so inclined to be under, those kind of lights for a lot of hours each day. So, blue light LEDs, for many people who are under them for more than 8 hours a day, it's been shown to have an effect on their health. So that's a whole nother issue. But so there's different ways to approach it. But IDA also, I know it's hard to put this in the hands of people that are not willing to listen, but there are IDA brochures that are absolutely wonderful. There are videos that we've done on Hangouts with these issues last year. There are pop-up banners that you could show at maybe even student functions that would bring in the families. And sometimes if you have that kind of neighbor that is very, very stubborn, you might actually ask them if you could buy their fixture or something that you want to replace that makes life better for you and also for them in the long run. But so there's a lot of different ways to sort of attack things, if that helps at all.
Actually, it does. It's really interesting. So one of the fascinating things, I actually had a neighbor. Oh yeah, I'm getting a huge. The neighbor was really. I actually went over to his house and showed him, photos that I had taken through the local observatory, and wanted him to come and visit. And I handed him some IDA brochures and was basically told, get off his front porch before I get shot. So not a pleasant scenery. But what was interesting about that scenario was that we had just passed a light trespassing ordinance in the town. And he was up against that as well, and was pretty much shut down by the local sheriff, which is really unfortunate. It's better to gain the trust and love of the people in your surrounding community so that they all get along, as opposed to fighting what they have held in their minds for so long, about lighting and brightness and whatnot. It's just really interesting. And one of the things on your poster was this issue of glare while driving, just basic safety while in your car, and street lights that just have the bare bulb aiming right at the person driving. And the more that we can make this a reality that people understand from personal experience, I think the better that this gets, right? My 2 cents. I don't know. It's hard. It's really hard sometimes to get through to people that are not willing to listen.
Oh, there goes this. No, you've said it very eloquently, and I appreciate that. There's 2 things I'm thinking of here. One is with how you teach that to your kids. And then secondly, I want that to be followed maybe by comments from Mike, because he's combat this as very, the same question. He has probably a different answer to that you just asked me. So, so how do you convince your students? What is it that how is it that you go about trying to convince them of all these issues? John.
Oh. talking to Mike. I'm sorry. I mean, the students are pretty easy to convince, I think, because they are experiencing it directly by trying to do astronomy through the eyepiece, and it gets really difficult. We initiate this with a group of small telescopes that are out on an observing deck, which is open air in every direction. And in one direction, we've got nothing but fields and forest, and it's dark. And in the other direction, toward the west, is the town, is our town of Exeter, and there's a bridge, and it's well lit with really beautiful, antique style lanterns that just broadcast light in every direction with a bare bulb. And they're attractive artistic things, but they're not at all functional in terms of protection, safety, not even driving safety. They're ludicrous. So withdrawing all those adjectives and getting back to reality, when the students are looking at things rising over in the east toward the forest, say they're looking at Jupiter, Saturn, a nebula, whatever, they can see it and they can sketch it, and life is great. And as soon as they start looking at things that are setting toward the west, toward the town, I hear endless comments from them about the reality of trying to make basic, simple eyeball observations of things through a telescope. They haven't even gotten to the level of understanding a limiting magnitude effect, or the fact that the whole sky is glowing because of it, or perhaps the Milky Way is not visible tonight because there's so much city activity, what have you. But they get there. By the end of 5 or 6 weeks into the term, they're now understanding that there are better nights than others. Humidity makes a difference. The fact that looking south toward Boston is really difficult. They're getting it. They're understanding things like light trespass and whatnot. And by the end of the term, they're actually thinking of active ways of blowing up lamps and shooting them with BB guns. But I have to prevent that, obviously, being a good teacher and a safe human being. But they understand it. So it's through experience. In a nutshell, the metacognition here is that they're learning it firsthand through experience. And if we could get that to everybody, it would be, our job would be so much easier, I think, to convince people. But the trick that we have is that we have to go in front of legislative bodies and town councils and whatnot and make a convincing argument without the ability to show them firsthand. And so they come in with their precognition and their preconceptions and their belief systems that are unfounded, really just illogical sometimes. And we have to do the unlearning technique. And so any pointers and skill sets that people have, put those down on the bullet list. That'd be great.
I understand. I agree with you. That was eloquently said. Again, yeah, it's amazing to teach kids, especially you are lucky because you do have some dark skies where you are, but there's so many cities and about 90, I would say probably close to 90% of people living in the United States have not seen, I think it's a little bit less, but a big drastic number have not ever really seen a starry night sky. And very little of the United States is left where we can actually pristinely see such a sky. But, and trying to teach this to people who have never seen anything else but the kind of condition is very difficult. So, and like you said, the whole issue with crime and safety and thinking that lights, that'll be another issue we talk about in another hangout, our safety hangout. But it's an amazing thing that people think that too many, many lights are going to make it safe. It's not. They have actual studies that show that it's not necessarily true. So, but then we're getting a little offbeat. But anyways, all the good of the cause, right? So I was wondering now if we could have Mike talk a little bit about his perspective of how he addresses the public. And I'm trying to unmute you, Mike. Oh, there you go. And I'll stay a little bit. Whoop, Mike.
Right. Okay.
There you go.
I guess I don't really deal with student levels between ages of say 8 to teenagers so much. Most of our work for public outreach is done at things like astrofests. And so you end up talking to people who are already interested in astronomy. Often though, there's the people who are seriously interested, and then there are the people who they've got a technical background, they're interested in astronomy. So say the last one we did, there are people who are engineers coming through. We had 2 street lights there, one street light at 4,000 K, second street light at 2,700 K. And so we were explaining the difference between the lights. And that went over well, because people could see, under the 4,000 K, it's like a real surgical type light. Everyone looked like a corpse, basically. And under the 2,700 K light, everyone looked more natural and normal. So that's pretty much how we go about it. We also deal at an ordnance level with, I'm not quite sure. we deal at an ordnance level, and so we talk to local councils. We might represent people at local councils when there's a planning issue around lighting or some form of illumination. So a recent one we did a few years ago was lobbied a council on the northern side of Sydney over a building signage. It was Coca-Cola. They were putting up a big building sign, LEDs. At one stage, it looked like it was going to be white LEDs on a white background, and it was designed to run during the day. So this sign was brighter than daylight on a dull day. Eventually, the sign turned out to be red LEDs at night and white LEDs during the day. They took away the white backing boards, so the building at night now isn't as obvious as it might have been, because it's only the red LEDs. But of course, during the day, it's white LEDs, and you can see them in full daylight, basically. So we lobbied the council over those sorts of issues, and whether or not we really got a change, I don't know, but the sign's not as bad as what it looked like in the documentation. I guess on things like crime, there's no research that shows any link between level of illumination and crime abatement. And in fact, if you look at the stats, the majority of crimes committed during the day anyway. So it's like the argument about increasing levels of illumination to improve safety doesn't really. The industry knows what's going on. It's whether or not they're willing to argue to get it accepted. There's also this issue around it's sort of coming from the concept of the quality of light. And there's a lot of comparison photos now where they show street lighting at, say, 4,000 K, compare it to the older form at under like high pressure sodium or low pressure sodium, but typically high pressure sodium. And so they go, well, you can see more under the wider light levels. But I would say that's debatable. There really isn't any research that that stands up under scrutiny. So you're up against the industry, and there are certain aspects of the industry that don't like it, and there are certain aspects of the industry now that are accepting they need to go at a lower colour temperature. But how you convince people, I don't know. But even recently, again at this last outreach we did, there were people who were astronomers that were there, or amateur astronomers, and they were telling us that they live in a sort of a valley. They live on one side of the valley. A lot of industrial security type lighting had changed on the other side of the valley, and suddenly they were looking at white LEDs and losing a lot of the sky visibility. They weren't really aware of what they needed to do to go about and challenge it. So I told the guy to contact me, but he hasn't.
Yeah.
Again, it's really only at an ordnance level that you can challenge that sort of thing.
Well, you do want the quality lighting to include being energy efficient, but you also want it to be shielded. That's a big deal as
Yeah.
well. And
On those, yeah. Sorry, Connie. On those 2 points, LED streetlights now are basically full cut-off. And you find, like, I couldn't even tell you anywhere around Sydney where I've seen a car park that isn't full cut-off. So there are a lot of good things that are happening, but it still comes down to relative and stuff. Yeah.
yeah.
So I don't know if I inspired anybody there or.
Now you brought in a lot of good points, and at the beginning you talked about something that I guess neither John and I had not touched on, which was going and helping to strengthen those ordinances, or going to the city council and stuff like that, which is very important.
Yeah. It's important to make sure that they know that you know what you're talking about and you're watching them.
Yeah, brilliant. Trying to get back a little bit to the activity. So shielding, as you were alluding to, shielding is a very important thing. That's what we're trying to accomplish one of the things we're trying to accomplish in our activity here. That you do. It's just one piece of the entire set of solutions that you can implement to make things better, to implement quality lighting. But it's a very important issue, and we're hoping that message gets across to the students by the exploration in using this activity. But there's one other issue that I know that John had mentioned, and it's related. It's a very important issue. It's he asked what the savings in real world dollars are in terms of in terms of real world dollars, I think is what you were saying, right, John? Let me unmute you, and you are unmuted. Okay.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, there's obviously a cost savings when we start talking about full cutoff lights. You're not putting half the light up into the sky. You're able to put it down, therefore able to utilize less wattage. And so I was wondering if off the top of your head you knew of some real-world dollar or whatever monetary standards you choose, what types of savings could be incurred by just converting, I don't know, one lamp or like an entire parking lot or a city, whatever unit you choose.
I just kind of know that there are not really any really good standards to follow on that, because there's so many different kinds of lights people use that have so many different kinds of rates of consumption, and we have different billings for the for a kilowatt hour. It's going to cost this much, so in different cities. But if you look at some of the statistics, it'll say things like if you look at the indoor lighting, it's about 10% of your entire electric bill. And if you just change out just 15 lights from maybe incandescent to something more energy efficient, they have these Energy Star LED lights, that you'll save. And I know it's low, but you multiply this by many. But if you just do 15, it'll be $50 a year that you save on your electric bill. But that, if you just now, multiply that by the number of different families that are in your city and the number of cities that are in the world, you're talking about a lot of money. So I don't know.
Yes, absolutely, and that's a really important thing to bring up to the councils and whatnot. I think that Mike was mentioning, just basic factual information can really.
There is an easy calculator. I just stumbled across this today when you had asked your question, and I was trying to see if I've highlighted it in the showcase. That should be. This is something that also the viewers can access. I think they get 2 apps when they click on that little 3x3 square symbol. And let me see if I can find it down here.
Energy savings calculator.
Yeah, and it's not tremendous, but it's really kind of neat. And I think if I'm able to bring it up here, I don't know if you can see it on your screen. I don't know how Showcase works very well, but I could also probably screen share it now. And if I can get the screen share to come back up here very quickly. Of course, I'm starting to say. Present to everybody. Can you see?
Oh yeah, cool. Yes.
And so there's a little calculator, and I think they don't have LEDs in here. I think they only have CFLs, but it's a start. And you can, set up a certain situation and ask them to calculate, I guess, how, if you know the wattage and how many and stuff like that, with the, how many hours it's on and stuff like that, you might be able to calculate the price and the cost and the energy consumed. But so there you go.
That's great.
Okay.
Thank you.
But we also have the energy activity, which does this as well. And that's another, another activity you can look at if you would like to try something. We also admonish people to, let me stop sharing this, admonish people to come up with their own set of calculations for their own city, if that's what they want to do. Much like what we've done for Houston, actually, is in that particular energy activity. So all of these are real-life situations we're trying to do. And I'm sure very bright students or very motivated students or both can come up with their own set of calculations for their own cities.
Very cool. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I don't know if that helps very much, though. I'm sorry.
It's a start, everything helps. It's good. Good information. I did not know about that calculator. I think that bulbs.com. That's great.
Pretty direct, huh? So I'm going now online just to check the Q&A to see if we have any. We have a few viewers, so I'm just wondering if they are willing to submit any questions, guys, all of you that are viewing. We are very, very amenable. This is why we're here. We're here to answer your questions. And so now I want to ask the three of you, if you could just for a second envision yourself using the kit with a teacher, so with John, say, and you're in the classroom with the students. What kind of issues do you feel that you might encounter? What kind of roadblocks or good parts, whichever, negative or positive parts that you think would be something you might want to talk about right now to see if there's any resolution to maybe a roadblock, for instance. Can you think of anything besides the room not getting dark enough, perhaps? Yeah. Let me see if you're still blocked. I mean, okay. So, John, if you have something to say, and Mike, I'll try to see if we're getting any feedback now. There we go.
For me, it would be a problem because we have, I think, in the same classroom, we will have the different activities. So, in some cases, we cannot turn off or make the darkest as possible the room. I don't know if it is a good idea to try to use another room, perhaps.
It is. For the animal activity and for the energy activity, you do not need to turn the lights out. That's a very good question. For the safety activity, they might be actually going to a few different rooms in the school, like the library, a bathroom, an outdoor area, and taking measurements with their lux meter to see how that compares with standard measurements that are in the activity. So, yes. So they'll be outside the classroom, but the remaining three activities, namely the night sky, the light trespass, and what was the last one? The glare. They'll need a dark room, and you can all put those in the same room with three different areas of the room, and see how that works out.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a very good question. Yeah, yeah. Logistics are very good questions. You have to make it work, right? But, yeah. And if you really do need the darkest situation, this one here, the night sky, really needs the darkest situation beyond the others. Make it work. All right. So, any other great questions like that?
I think it's just being in a dark room with a bunch of children. That's all.
Well, the lights from what you're using in the activity will be light enough. It's not going to be, once they turn those on, it's not going to be completely dark at all. So I wouldn't do it too much. The teachers will be there too, so it'll be fine.
Yeah, well, that's, yeah.
Yeah, I understand that too. All right. So guys, I want to thank you very much for coming at the end of our hour. And, oh, I'm sorry. Did you want to say something? Yes, Mr. John.
We have a couple of questions out there from John. Ego? I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name, John.
Yeah, I just looked about 30 seconds ago. I didn't see any. Thank you, John. Let's see what you got here. Do you want to say what they are, John? John to John?
I can, sure. He asks, how many children do you think can view the observatory demonstration simultaneously? I would safely say 12 if you get them in a circle would be pretty easy to do. But other people, what do you guys think? Igo. Okay, his name is John Igo. Thank you, John.
No, that's true. We typically, I mean, John Igo, you can do this any way you see fit. But we typically recommend in a classroom situation to divide up the classroom. You know, in the United States, the classrooms are between 24 and 30 kids. It's different for different countries. You might only want to do half the activities at a time if you have a small classroom. So you want to do maybe all the dark ones first, you know, that we just talked about, the 3 dark activities, and then do the 3 light activities, no pun intended. And then, you know, do it that way. And then you can, if you only have a group of 18 kids, you have 6 in each group. It means, you know, or if you can't do all 3 at the same time or all 6 at the same time, that's totally your call. So, but to me, 12 is kind of large to have in a group working on this kind of thing, because not everybody can participate in doing something with the activity. But you know, I'm not a teacher. John Blackwell here is a teacher, and he knows very well what's going to work and what's not going to work.
I would definitely break them into smaller groups after a demonstration. You know, a demonstration saves time. The more people that you can get it in front of, but you certainly want everybody to have equal access to that visibility and that information at that one time. But as soon as they go off, I'd probably break them down into groups of 2 or 3 to start doing the brainstorming sections. You know, how to work on shielding and whatnot. You know, calculating the mathematics of distance relationship to blindness of night sky. I'd certainly get the kids working in smaller groups. But it depends on your classroom. It depends on the situation of your class, how easily things can be broken up. I mean, if you're teaching 30 kids at a time, that becomes more of a challenge, and you may actually want the demonstration to be occupied by the individual students in groups of, say, 5.
I'm going to try to minimize. Okay, so Mike is going to mute you for a minute, and Noel will mute you for a minute. See if it gets better for John. Yeah, and something you stumbled upon I wanted to mention too, but I think I forgot for a moment. No, but the classroom situation, that is, gosh, it's going to be, oh yeah, I wanted to mention about the video itself, that all these videos that we have on the activities, please note that is just a guide for the teacher. You don't have to do it the way we said. It's just a recommendation. Because we don't mean to be very prescriptive. You can be as open-ended with your students as you would like, as exploratory as you would like. We do start off with the posters just to give them some background information because, you know, let's face it, kids don't normally know anything about light pollution. So we do supply them with that poster just to get them started. And it's one poster per activity that they at least have in front of them. So here's another question here, I think from John too. Oh, well that's a good comment. We talked a little about that already. If they've never seen the night sky, how will they know what the benefits of a clear sky would be? Well, there you go. You might want to take them to a dark sky on a field trip if you can. Take it to a dark sky site, or in a planetarium, or you actually use the planetarium that's in this kit to show them what might look like in a very semi-fictitious way.
Another option, I suppose, would be to show them photographs that a lot of people are taking now with wide field cameras of places like Cerro Tololo or you know, Atacama Desert photography, were pretty splendid photographs, and it's no joke. You know, a lot of people look at these photos and they see, you know, Milky Way strewn across the sky, and it really looks like that. It's no joke. It's real, and really, it's pretty awe-inspiring.
It is, yeah. It is very. I don't know if I'm still on here, but let's see. I was looking at the questions for a second. I'm sorry. See if we get more. Very good. Okay, I think we've taken care of most of them, and I am still on. Okay, good. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. There's a contest. I would admonish everybody that's listening to this or will be listening to this. It's called the Earth and Sky Photo Contest. And the photographs that come out of this contest are eyeball popping, basically. I was lucky enough the past, I don't know how many years, to be a judge in this contest, and I am not the pundit by any sense. All the other people that are judges are the ones who know better than myself, but they're exquisite. There are about 1,000 of these photographs that are submitted to the contest each year from like 50 different countries, and we have to pick out like 10 winners, and it's very difficult. So when this comes out, it's going to come out very shortly. Please pay attention to the beautiful photographs that were submitted, and you can show your students. You'll be absolutely amazed. And with that, we are 5 minutes past our allotted hour. I don't know if it's all right with you guys, but we might want to just say a little bit of like a final adieu, goodbye, and to thank everybody. And I do mean this very highly. I'm unmuting everybody here. I want to thank you, John, Noelia, and Mike, for all of your input. As always, you guys are amazing, and I've known John for years, so I can say that with ____. And all of you, I met Mike, very recently, but boy, we spent 2 days at a conference together, and he is just a wealth of knowledge. And Noelia, I am so thrilled to know you, and I see a great future in front of you, and I know you'll stay active in the field of light pollution mitigation and awareness. And
Okay, thank you.
I'm looking forward to seeing you use the kit in the classroom very, very much. And,
Okay, thank you.
and any final words from you guys before we go?
No, thank you.
I'm just going to, thank you. I was just going to tell John, though, he was asking about numbers.
Okay.
With LED streetlights, there's a 70% saving. That's pretty standard across anywhere in the world, wherever.
Okay.
And so that's why there's such a huge drive to do it.
Fantastic. Thank you for that number. That's great.
Yeah. Well, did you say 75%? I didn't hear that very well.
70.
Yeah.
70. Yeah.
With the energy, I thought there was a 75% reduction in energy use compared to the incandescent light. But I didn't know that.
That's a cost saving, 70%. So
Okay.
that's yeah.
Oh, that's good. Okay, that's good to know. Okay. Well, great.
And that's going to blue. So that's going to blue LEDs.
No. That's another issue altogether.
Discussion.
And that's the problem.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have been wonderful, and please tune in. This is for the half of the world that were the Americas and Asia and Australia and New Zealand and India. Anyone from over there who wanted to join in, that's what this particular session was for. On Thursday, for me, bright and early in the morning. For the rest of the world, a little bit later in the day, I guess. But also for the Americas, but mostly for Europe and for Africa as well. So we'll be going over the night sky activity once again. And if any of you would like to join us for that as well, because I know John and Noelia, if they're amenable, they feel free to please join us as guests again. It'll be probably in the middle of the night for you, Mike, so I don't think you'd want to do that. But thanks again, and hope you all tune in to our next Hangout. And on the event page for this particular event, you also have the schedule for all the other, and the topics for all the other Hangouts. So please take note of that if you would. And thanks again, everybody. Okay.
Great. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.